What if a single move on a map could change how America fights for space superiority? Today, the White House has confirmed that U.S. Space Command will be relocated from Colorado to Alabama. Billions of dollars, thousands of jobs, and the nation's chain of command itself now hang in the balance. Is this a matter of military strategy, or politics dressed as strategy? In this video, we will connect three things: the money, the map, and the mission. And by the end, you will see why one date on the calendar could decide everything. If you want US politics explained without spin, hit subscribe now, like this video so others can find it, and tell me in the comments whether you think this move makes America stronger or slower when seconds matter. To understand what is at stake, we need to start with the basics. US Space Command, often abbreviated as SpaceCom, is the military command responsible for operations in outer space. It was first created during the Cold War, but later disbanded, then re-established in 2019 as the world entered a new era of competition beyond Earth's atmosphere. It is not the same thing as the Space Force, which is a separate military branch created to build and train forces. Space Command is a joint command that coordinates operations and strategy across the entire military. According to the Associated Press, its current headquarters has been in Colorado Springs, a hub of space-related military infrastructure for decades. The Biden administration had frozen an earlier plan to move the command to Alabama, citing concerns about readiness. But now, President Trump has reversed that freeze and ordered the relocation to Huntsville, Alabama, home of Redstone Arsenal, one of the largest military bases in the South. On paper, this is about location. In practice, it is about far more than geography. Here is what we know. According to Reuters, President Trump signed the order to relocate U.S. Space Command to Huntsville. The choice of Alabama is not random. Huntsville is already home to Redstone Arsenal, the Army's center for missile defense and space-related research. It has facilities and workforce capacity to host the new headquarters. Alabama politicians are celebrating the decision as a victory, claiming it will bring billions in federal investment and secure tens of thousands of jobs. In Colorado, the reaction is very different. Officials warn that the move will weaken readiness. According to the Denver Post, Colorado leaders argue that Colorado Springs already has the infrastructure, the personnel, and the networks built over decades of hosting space operations. Moving them now could disrupt continuity. Yet, the decision has been made. The White House insists this is a strategic realignment, not a political gesture. But many in Congress are skeptical. Why now? Why this state? Why reopen a fight that Biden had put on hold? And what exactly does it mean for America's ability to compete in space with rivals like China and Russia? Why does the location of a headquarters matter so much? To answer that, we need to think about what space warfare actually is. Unlike traditional battlefields, space is about satellites, signals, and seconds. A few minutes of lost communication can cripple an entire operation. The chain of command must be clear, uninterrupted, and fully connected to intelligence and defense systems. According to the BBC, Colorado Springs has long been the nexus of those networks, with NORAD and U.S. Northern Command sharing infrastructure. This is not just another base. It is part of a wider ecosystem of radars, tracking stations, and data centers that give America constant eyes on the skies. Moving the headquarters to Alabama will mean building new lines of communication, retraining staff, and relocating families. That takes time, and time in military terms is risk. Supporters of the move argue that Alabama offers more room to expand, lower costs of living for personnel, and proximity to other research centers, like NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Huntsville is sometimes called Rocket City because of its long history with missile defense and space technology. According to NPR, the city already hosts thousands of engineers and contractors working on satellite systems and missile interceptors. The argument is that Huntsville is the future, a place where growth can happen faster and cheaper than in Colorado. Critics, however, say that any gain in facilities will be offset by the readiness tax of moving a command during a period of growing international competition. Consider how long it takes to build secure command centers, establish hardened communication lines, and integrate them into global networks. These are not office buildings. They are fortified hubs of command and control that must withstand cyber attacks, electronic jamming, and even physical threats. According to the Washington Post, some officials warn that the transition could take 5 to 7 years. During that time, the command will be divided between two states, splitting personnel and stretching resources. That division is itself a vulnerability. This is what we might call the geography of security. On a map, it looks like a change of zip code. In reality, it shifts the axis of power. Think of it this way. In World War II, moving a supply base closer to the front lines could shorten response times by hours or days. In space operations, a delay of even seconds can decide the outcome of an entire mission. If communication lines are disrupted during the transition, if coordination falters for even a moment, adversaries could seize the advantage. Other countries understand this well. China has built its Space Command infrastructure in Xi'an, far from coastal threats, but deeply connected to its industrial and research base. Russia continues to operate its Space Command from Moscow, where it is tightly integrated with its air defense networks. Neither of those nations would willingly accept years of disruption in their chains of command. The question is whether America can afford to. Imagine two clocks ticking. One clock measures construction, relocation, and bureaucracy. The other clock measures China's advances in satellite constellations and anti-satellite weapons. Which clock will run faster? This is the essence of what we might call the clock of readiness. If America finishes its relocation before rivals make decisive advances, the move could pay off. If the rivals move faster, America could face a dangerous gap. And in a world where deterrence depends on credibility, even the perception of a gap can be costly. Beyond strategy lies another battlefield: politics. Military bases are not just outposts, they are economic engines. According to NPR, major bases inject billions into local economies through contracts, jobs, and support industries. Alabama stands to gain enormously from this relocation. Colorado stands to lose. That is why local politicians are fighting so hard. For them, this is not only about national security, it is about the economy of their states. Critics argue that Trump's choice favors a Republican stronghold while punishing a Democratic-leaning state. The White House rejects this, saying the decision is based purely on merit. But the suspicion remains. This is what we might call the politics of protection, when the shield of national defense becomes a tool of political reward. The risk is clear. If security is guided not only by strategy but by electoral maps, then every base, every command becomes a prize in partisan competition. And what does that do to readiness? It creates what we could call the readiness tax, a cost paid in time and disruption, while politics counts its dividends. This tension between strategy and politics has long existed, but the Space Command move makes it visible in sharp relief. And it forces us to ask, is this relocation strengthening America? Or is it a political dividend disguised as strategy? The reactions have been immediate and sharp. According to ABC News, Colorado's governor has vowed to challenge the move, calling it an unnecessary risk during a time of rising international threats. Military analysts are divided. Some say Huntsville can handle the mission and eventually may be better equipped for growth. Others warn that in the short term, the disruption could leave America vulnerable. The Pentagon itself has given cautious statements, noting that it will follow the president's directive while ensuring a smooth transition. In Congress, members are split largely along regional lines, with Alabama's delegation praising the decision and Colorado's blasting it as political. Media outlets have amplified the controversy, framing it as a clash between strategy and politics, between readiness and reward. What is striking is how much attention this has gained outside military circles. For the average American, the question is simple. Will this make us safer or not? And if the answer is not clear, why take the risk? What happens next? According to the Washington Post, the relocation process will not be immediate, but will unfold over several years. Facilities in Huntsville must be built or expanded. Housing and schools must be prepared for the thousands of families who will relocate. Sensitive systems, from secure communication lines to satellite tracking networks, must be reestablished and tested. This means a prolonged transition period in which command structures are stretched between Colorado and Alabama. That division is more than just a logistical inconvenience. It is what strategists call a vulnerability gap, a moment when the chain of command has a weak link. For several years, U.S. Space Command may be that weak link. Meanwhile, adversaries are not waiting. China continues to expand its satellite constellations, test anti-satellite missiles, and invest heavily in its own space infrastructure. According to Reuters, Beijing has accelerated the deployment of satellites capable of providing global coverage, and its military has already demonstrated the ability to destroy satellites in orbit. Russia, though weakened economically, has not slowed in its pursuit of electronic warfare capabilities. According to CNN, Moscow has repeatedly tested jamming technologies that can disrupt GPS signals and communications. In other words, while America debates construction schedules and relocation costs, its rivals are sharpening their tools. Can the United States afford years of divided command while competitors close the gap? Looking forward, Congress is unlikely to remain silent. According to Politico, several lawmakers are already preparing hearings to investigate whether the decision was based on military necessity or political reward. These hearings could drag military officials into the spotlight, forcing them to justify readiness timelines and risk assessments. Lawsuits may also be filed by Colorado officials who argue that the relocation undermines national security and violates earlier agreements. The Government Accountability Office, an independent watchdog, may launch reviews to examine whether proper procedures were followed and whether the costs of relocation were honestly assessed. But the most important battlefield may not be in courtrooms or committee rooms. It may be in the court of public opinion. Every news report of delays, every leaked memo about vulnerabilities, every incident of satellite disruption will be tied back to this decision. The narrative will write itself. America chose to move its command, and now America pays the price. For a public already skeptical of Washington, this could deepen distrust. For political rivals, it is ammunition. And for adversaries abroad, it is opportunity. This is why the real question is not just whether the move will succeed in the long run. The real question is what happens during the transition. The readiness tax must be paid up front. The geography dividend, if it exists, comes later. If America gains long-term capacity but suffers short-term vulnerability, is that a price worth paying? Or does it reveal that once again politics has outweighed strategy? This is what we could call the precedent effect. Once a decision like this is made, it sets a model. If bases can be relocated not only for strategy but for politics, what prevents future presidents from using national security infrastructure as bargaining chips? That is the danger of normalization. The first time it happens, it feels shocking. The second time, it feels political. The third time, it feels routine. And once it feels routine, the fragile shield of security has already shattered. Let us connect the dots. One presidential decision has moved a command, shifted billions of dollars, and reignited a fight between states. On the surface, this is about facilities and zip codes. Beneath the surface, it is about strategy and power. The geography of security teaches us that every location matters. The politics of protection shows us that decisions about security are never entirely free of political calculation. And the readiness tax reminds us that every relocation carries a cost in time and disruption. These concepts help us see the pattern. What looks like logistics is really about influence. What looks like economy is really about power. And when power decides where protection lives, the shield of security risks becoming a prize in a political game. That is why this move matters. Not just for Colorado, not just for Alabama, but for the nation as a whole. Because the enemies of America will not care whether the command sits in Colorado Springs or Huntsville. They will care whether America is ready in time. And time is the one resource that no politics can replace. So here's the final question. Should the security of the nation's space command depend on military strategy or on political maps? If you believe readiness should come before politics, share this video and let others join the debate. Comment below with one thing you think we missed, and tell us whether you see this move as strategy or politics. And subscribe to Capital Chronicle, because in the weeks ahead, we will follow every step of this relocation, every hearing in Congress, and every signal from the Pentagon. Do not miss the updates, because in stories like this, the real impact is often revealed not on the day of the announcement, but in the months and years that follow. First comes the shock, then comes the silence, and that silence is where danger grows.